Wake up, wake up. It is the final day of March. That's right. April Fool's Day is tomorrow. Prepare yourselves accordingly.
Monday, March 31st. Wake up, wake up. It's great to have you here. Please like and subscribe. And yeah, Larry, if we were coming up with examples of the softening of America, I remember a few years ago at the radio station, we started getting emails about be very careful with your April Fool's Day pranks because people are getting really emotionally upset about false information wrapped up as an April Fool's Day news story, and people can't handle April Fools anymore. And I just thought we are no longer the nation that stormed the beaches in Normandy if April Fools has us rattled.
And it does. It does. Welcome to Wake Up. Of course, on my side, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. We're also brought to you by LearnKey Upskill Academy, an online learning platform designed to get you job ready in 6 months or less. There's a link in the description. And we're also brought to you by Claw Daddy Arcades. Follow them on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades. That's right. He's an owner of video arcades. He's got 3 locations in Southern California. He's got a couple more in the Central Valley, Fresno, and Modesto. He's opening a Bay Area location. Claw Daddy Arcades. Follow him on Instagram and check out an arcade location near you. So thanks to all of them for being proud sponsors of the Krug Show.
I love that this show and your channel, Larry, is associated with an arcade. That is just phenomenal. We are also on the Plus, always brought to you by Ike of Ike Sandwiches. Let me tell you, I don't know what you're doing for lunch today. If you're that big decision for your office, if you are, check out Ike's Catering. He's got a little something to satisfy everybody in the office, from the biggest meat sandwich you could ever think of to something vegan, if you got people who walk in that direction. So he's got it all. Check out Ike's. And we want to thank, as always, the Dubliner and West Portal for pulling the best Guinness in all of San Francisco. Lots of love from them for the Plus. And we spread the love all the way around. And I love the arcade. I really do. I want to go to a Claw Daddy arcade. I want to bring my kids to a Claw Daddy arcade. They'll be blown away. Like, my kids have never seen like an actual video game, like a console. They've never seen anything like that. So hopefully we get to do that soon. Larry, we got ourselves an actual little bit of news because it's a big news-making sort of week around the NFL with the NFL owners meetings happening. The league is gathered to rough it in Palm Beach, Florida for the Conference of Billionaires and their coaching henchmen. They've all gathered to start their league year and do business and take that photograph of all the coaches sitting together. I always try to, garner your coaching, your coaching reputation. Does it directly relate to where you're seated in this picture? If you're out on the peripherals, are you a little bit more in trouble? I couldn't help but notice Brian Daboll was all the way stage left. He didn't look like he was really in the group as much as he was remaining in the group for maybe one more year. And then you got Kyle Shanahan, who, God bless him, Larry, he looks like he needs an offseason from his offseason. He already looks like he's been on a 6-day Vegas bender and shot. He gives off the I am so over this, over you vibe. And just the look, now maybe he, 30 seconds before that, he was smiling ear to ear and the picture shutter came down at the wrong time. But oh my God, Shanahan looked like he'd rather be anywhere else.
Well, it probably isn't his favorite thing to do. My guess, if most football coaches like to, basically sit in their dark rooms and scheme up plays and that kind of thing. And they're not the most social creatures as a rule. I mean, there's always exceptions to every rule, but my guess is you've been in the league this long. It's like you've heard every rules change. You've gone to these meetings. It probably all seems kind of humdrum at this point. But, Kyle Shanahan needs to bring, as much resolve as he's got, because he's going to have a young roster. He and his coaching staff are going to be on the spot because we're going to find out if they can coach. I mean, you can draft guys, but draft day is not the end. Draft day is the beginning, and you have to coach them up. And not every prospect is perfect. And you can't, there's 2% of the prospects are like Brock Purdy, or they're just like ready to play and they don't need tons of tutelage and they're just super polished. Hopefully they get those guys, because otherwise they're going to have to coach them up, and we're going to have to see exactly how good of a coaching staff this really is on both sides of the ball. We've been told for years this is one of the NFL's better coaching staffs, but this year we are going to see it, because if the 49ers, in a year where they didn't spend hardly anything in free agency, the least of anybody, and are going to try to rebuild a roster that has a myriad of needs all through the draft, damn right, Kyle Shanahan's coaching and his coaching staff's ability to coach is going to be on the table for everybody to see this year.
Yeah, there's no doubt. The same way that the San Francisco Giants cannot go a month without having the word plucky or scrappy or, good vibes in that clubhouse attached to them. Like, there is no success without great vibes all year long for the Francisco Giants. And I would say that there will be no success for the 49ers without a hell of a out of Shanahan and Robert Saleh. Now, obviously, they've improved on special teams as well, and they got to get it. They got to get it right. Like, not only will there be a bevy of raw rookies making their first journey into the NFL and onto the playing field, but this is a league that has scrutinized Shanahan's running game probably above all others, and there is no tendency, there is no way to go about planning a game that Kyle has in his back pocket that the rest of the league didn't sort of seem to be catching up with or onto. So Kyle's going to have to go through, I think, a little bit of an evolution too, Larry. His acknowledgement of a new offensive coordinator maybe will be a good thing in terms of getting Shanahan into rhythms that aren't as predictable. And I think that there was some predictability to some of that play calling last year. Now, you can say maybe he was handcuffed by the situation. He didn't have the depth of his playbook to really work through based on availability and who he trusted or didn't trust out there. But this is a fascinating year for the San Francisco 49ers. Guys like you and me who talk about this team are going to have, I think, one of the more interesting, very difficult to predict years, which means, every week we're going to be watching this unfold in real time, how it all, how it goes out. I mean, I could legitimately see how the 49ers are, find a way to win their division and maybe even be one of the best teams in all of football. I could also see, as I'm standing and looking at it right now, them missing the postseason again. I mean, I have no idea what to predict. We don't even know what a third of the roster looks like because the draft hasn't happened yet. So it's not the time to be making any bold predictions, but this is going to be a great year. This is going to be so much fun for us, Larry. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, it's never boring. It's never boring. There's a reason that the channel has grown up so well in the last couple of years, and it's just because the 49ers are just a very compelling watch. They're a compelling story. I mean, there's compelling figures. There's Jed and John and Kyle and a roster full of interesting players and a huge fan base, a fan base that travels and pays attention to the team year round. And there's no question. Today I will probably put out, we'll probably wind up getting close to, 250,000 views from all the different videos that we'll put out in relation to the owners' meetings and the stories of the day, streaming today, twice today, and just a lot. There's a lot of Niners stuff out there and a lot of people that are all over it. And what I love more than anything is that I love the draft, and the Niners have basically challenged themselves to get it done in the draft.
Yeah.
And we're going to see if they're capable of doing it, because they want to be a Super Bowl contender this year. I can almost guarantee you. And yet outside of quarterback, which they've got down, even though there are people that want to trade Brock Purdy and sign Aaron Rodgers, outside of the quarterback spot, who's going to run the ball? Who's going to block? Who's going to catch? Who's going to rush? Who's going to be the linebacking core? Who's going to be the secondary? Who's going to be the kicker? I mean, it's just, it's like the 49ers have a ton of unknown situations going on with their team. And yet, if you ask John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan, or if Jed York talks today, they're not going to say that this is a rebuilding team. They're not going to say that this is a team that's taking a sabbatical from winning or we're down for a couple years before we're Super Bowl contenders. They're going to say we're Super Bowl contenders right away. So what it really makes it interesting is the fact that somehow the 49ers are going to have to fill their needs in the draft, and their needs are many. So bring it on, and let's see if they can get it done. They're going to have the draft of drafts, because it's very few personnel departments that really have every player handicapped well. They usually have their favorites, and then they can move around the board, trading other picks to move up or down to make sure they get their favorite players, the ones that they know that they believe in. Well, this is going to be a draft where you may get your favorite linebacker, but you may get your fifth favorite defensive end. You may get your seventh favorite offensive tackle. You may get your sixth favorite running back. And you're going to have to make it happen next year with, your less than primary options at several positions and find your way to the playoffs. And that's going to be really, really hard to do. So bring it on. It should be entertaining.
There's going to be no tiptoeing around a inexperienced roster for Kyle. He's not going to be able to just lean into his old hat veterans because he just doesn't have that many around anymore. So it's going to be a tremendously interesting year all the way around for the 49ers. And there's no such thing as a draft that doesn't matter, but there are definitely drafts that matter more than others. And boy, this is one of the single biggest drafts in franchise history in terms of what kind of path will you be on this upcoming season. It means an awful lot. Before we get into who the pick might be and all that draft stuff, a few of the things that are coming out of Palm Beach, right? And the owners' meetings that are going on down in Florida right now. And one of the things that I saw in the last 72 hours, Larry, was that in order to get out of the Brandon Aiyuk situation financially in the most prudently responsible way for the 49ers, to save the most amount of money, and this was going to be a money-saving move, so saving the most amount of money is job one in any sort of Brandon Aiyuk transaction, that they had to have it done by Tuesday. Tomorrow, as this live stream is happening, they have to have it done by Tuesday. And it sounds like, I think the 49ers really tried to make this happen, and they didn't have anybody take a bite, because today John Lynch is out there saying how much, they've always loved Brandon Aiyuk and that they've wanted him to be around this entire time. And oh, by the way, since you asked, his knee is just, ahead of pace. The rehabbing process is going incredibly well. All nice things for Brandon Aiyuk, said by John Lynch down in Florida today. And I think that that's a big indicator that they didn't find anybody to do a deal with, Larry, and he's coming back.
Really does look like it, which is, a surprise to me, because why would you talk? Why would you talk about trading a player that you're not really, serious about moving? The one question we don't know is what the Niners' price was. So we have no idea what their ask was. Did they ask for a second-round pick? Did they ask for a third-round pick? Did they ask for a seventh-round pick and nobody wanted to give them anything? Or did they ask for a second or third-round pick, and when somebody said, we'll give you a fourth, they said, no, screw you, get out of here. We won't take a fourth. We're keeping our player. So we don't know. All we know is that he sounded at the combine like he wanted to shop him. He sounded at the combine like he was almost saying, talking about Brandon Aiyuk in the past tense. But tomorrow is the deadline. Why? Well, because there's a $22.85 million bonus that was due to be paid to Aiyuk by tomorrow.
It triggers tomorrow.
If the Niners were going to get off the money, you would think they would trade him before paying the $22.8 million bonus. That's, I think, the right read on the situation, because that's pretty much the way everybody nationally, locally has read it. So Lynch said he expects Aiyuk to remain with the team and that he has no regrets about the decision to make a commitment to the wideout. We love Brandon Aiyuk as a football player. We did when we drafted him. We're excited to move forward with him. Bottom line is this guy suffered a torn ACL. He had a big contract. It sounded like they really wanted to get out from underneath it. I thought they sounded so eager to get out from underneath it that they would be motivated to take less. They may have been, or they may not have been, but so we really don't know. There could have been a great market for Aiyuk, but it was just beneath what they were asking. There could have been no market for Aiyuk because nobody wanted to take him under any circumstance. We just don't know, because we don't know what they were offered, and we don't know what they were willing to do or not willing to do.
And whoever might be your dance partner doesn't even know the real viability of what Brandon Aiyuk is anymore, which made this a nearly impossible deal to hammer through. A distressed asset who is paid at a premium that teams are shying away from. I do believe that the 49ers had instant buyer's remorse on the guy before the injury even occurred. But now they're sort of, you broke it, you bought it. And they will be stuck with him when they come back and they say how much they've really liked the player. And they are professing their love for him. I don't think it's all lip service. Like, I think that they really do like Brandon Aiyuk. Look at it this way. They liked him enough just a couple of months ago to give him $30 million a year, right? I mean, they do like the player, and I think you and I like the player. When he's gone right, when he's been good, not only does he help them in their passing game, he is one of the best downfield blocking little wide receivers I think I've ever seen. I like Brandon Aiyuk. It just has been a weird fit the last year plus. And
one, he's not little. I mean, first, he's not little at all. He's almost 6'2". He plays like a guy who's 6'5". But he's
right.
He's a good sized receiver.
I mean, in terms of just football field, he is not one of the physical specimens out there. But that guy blocks like he is 6'5", 300, like a guard. Like he is a really good blocker.
When you say he is, I think that's inaccurate. I think it's safer to say he was, because this was a major injury, and that's a big part of this. That's a big part of why nobody wants him. It's a big part of why the Niners couldn't move him, because this was not just oops. You know what? He took a step to the left, and his knee didn't respond well, and he's tore the ACL, but he'll be fine. This is a full blowout ACL, PCL, meniscus, all of it. This is a major injury, and I think it's everything that you say about him should be said in the past tense, because he used to be this, he used to be that, and we'll see what he is. But I would say all bets are completely off because of the seriousness of the injury. And if you don't believe me, go back and look at that injury again. Go back and look at it. It's a major injury, and the fallout from it is major. And I think it's crazy to think that he's not going to be diminished. I think he's definitely going to be diminished. The question is how diminished. And we'll find out. We're going to find out. But that's the other thing too. It's like, you want somebody to pay $22 million. They would have had to pay that today or tomorrow. But the reality is that his doctor, who, is probably being somewhat optimistic, says that mid-season is the soonest you're going to see him. I'm on record as predicting it's going to be more like November.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a Christmassy. I think you're going to have Thanksgiving dinner before you see Brandon Aiyuk.
Right. So then then the Niners are hoping to be a Super Bowl team. So then it comes down to, well, you clearly don't have enough at wide receiver if you take away Aiyuk and Debo, and you will be taking away the Aiyuk and Debo factor probably for at least half the year. So then receiver in a year, where a year after they drafted a receiver in the first round, they're probably going to have to go receiver at some point in this draft. And who knows when it's going to be? I mean, it may be in the first round. It may be in the second round. We'll see. I mean, I know the Niner fans are hoping for get the, line of scrimmage dealt with, and I think they will, but doesn't mean that they won't take a receiver in the first round.
I think that would be borderline negligence if they were to do that. I mean, I'm not
getting good players, man. It doesn't. If you draft, Luther Burden and Luther Burden becomes a Pro Bowl receiver, it doesn't matter.
Right. All results determine whether or not it was a good pick or not. But just in terms of team construction, getting better from the inside out. I mean, to me, just another first round wide receiver just would be it's everything. Sure, they need the player, they need to fill the position, but boy, I think they have so much bigger needs. And all right.
Well, I don't know about that. I don't know, because I mean, to me, the guys who touch the football are pretty big. I would say the guys who touch the football are really, really big. I mean, the Dallas Cowboys won a Super Bowl with some borderline linemen, but they had Emmett and Aikman and Irvin and Novacek. And so the guys who touch the ball, I think, do matter. Look at, who's won the Super Bowl recently. I mean, it's Hurts and Barkley and all of his weapons. Yeah, he had a great line, but I mean,
ferocious offensive line.
Kansas City won all those years. One year they won with some last year they won with some pretty average offensive tackles, but they still had Mahomes, still had Pacheco, still had Kelsey. I'm just saying the guys who handle the ball usually matter quite a bit. So we'll find out. I mean, how are the Niners going to go forward? I'll say this. If the plan is to go with Tariq Owens and do this internally and not add a significant wide receiver in the draft, then your plan stinks and you're not going anywhere, because there's no chance in hell that you're going to win anything if that is your plan. You're going to have a better wide receiver than what you have right now. So somewhere along the line in this draft, they're going to have to say, you know what? Yeah, we need an offensive lineman. Yeah, but you know what? We have Colton McKivitz today. We need a receiver, or we're going to have Jacob Cowing starting. I mean, they're literally a Ricky Pearsall hamstring away from a dire situation. So,
by the way, I'm sorry if I'm a little distracted right now. We are dog sitting a Corgi for our neighbors, and my wife is trying to get this dog back into the house, and the dog does not respond to verbal commands very well.
I would try with a treat. Maybe a treat. You guys have a dog treat.
A treat. You'd think the treat would work, but it's not really a food motivated little dog either. It's like a little fuzzy rocket. This freaking Corgi's adorable. I've never been a big Corgi guy, but this thing's selling me.
They're short and they're thick.
They are short and thick, man. Zophmus is saying, daddy daycare today. Yeah, I hope the rain goes away. We're supposed to go up to Train Town. Is Train Town even open on a Monday? We got to Google search that before we get in the car and drive up to Sonoma.
Which Train Town are you going to?
There's more than one?
Dude, if you go up to Old Sac, there's a train.
Oh, no, we're not going to Sacramento. We're going to Sonoma, the Sonoma Train Town.
Okay. There's also a train place in Pleasant Hill and I'm not sure if it's open all year round, but it's amazing. It's like this. I'm not sure exactly where in Pleasant Hill. We took our kids to see it, but it's like an amazing.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to derail the show, but this freaking Corgi caught my eye and my wife chasing it. A few other things that are coming out of Florida and the NFL owners meetings. I saw David Lombardi give us this quote from John Lynch, saying Lynch says, I quote, he'd love nothing more, end quote, than for a Brock Purdy contract to be done ahead of the offseason workout program. I mean, I would hope so. I would certainly hope so. It feels like both of these parties are motivated to get it done. Everybody is agreed, I would think, that this is the player. Everyone knows sort of the neighborhood that this deal is going to come in in, and I just to me, why this deal isn't consummated by Friday is hard to explain. Like you really can't explain it to me. Why can't this deal be done by the end of the week?
Why does it need to be done by the end of the week?
Well, it doesn't need to be.
I mean, what's happening at the end of the week? Are they playing a game? Are they having a practice? Are they having a mini camp? Is there any reason at all that it needs to be done by the end of the week?
Isn't conclusion reward in itself? Like, don't you just want this done and put to bed and behind you? And just, I mean, if it hangs over us as guys who talk about the team on YouTube, how must it hang over the team? You know, I mean, like, to me, I would get it done. Why put off to tomorrow what you can get done today? It's like the opposite of procrastination.
You know, I think Lynch and Shanahan have been stating a number of things that have been stated to them by others, and then they're kind of throwing it out as their idea. You know, we needed to have a financial reset. Really? Is that your idea, or did somebody above you tell you that's your idea? And in this one, I don't even think this is the Niners like urgency. I think this is Brock Purdy saying, I will be there on day one for my guys on day one of the offseason program. Kyle Strongin, get it done. John Lynch, get it done. I will be there for the beginning of the offseason program. I'm sure Brock knows. Brock is the kind of guy, he's all ball. He's all about football. He's all about competing. Does he want the money? Yeah. Does he want every penny? Absolutely. That's why he hired an agent. That's why he's going through this process. But I can tell you from knowing the guy a little bit, he doesn't enjoy it at all. He's not enjoying this process at all. He wants it done ASAP. But most importantly, like you, he wants it done ASAP. But
by the way, Larry, your beautiful face just vanished from my screen. I cannot see your handsomeness right now.
What happened here?
There you go. Oh, flashback there for a second. There you are. Oh, now I got another angle.
What happened?
Now I'm looking into your left ear.
Hold on. Here we go.
Look, I didn't know you had multiple angle capabilities.
Oh yeah, no, I've got I've got 3 different cameras in here. I've got the laptop camera, I've got the camera, and then I've got the main camera. And then
are you running an OnlyFans that we don't know about on the side or something?
No, but every laptop, I've got all 3 cameras just in case one goes bad.
All right, get your backup cameras. Nice.
So if we want, we can go backup camera at any point and give you kind of a different look.
Emergency. By the way, I see where your wood paneling budget ran out.
Yeah, well, there's cords over here. See, there's a plug right there, so I just didn't want to wood over the plug. But yes, we can go to different camera backgrounds, and there we go. There's the main camera.
The other thing coming out of Florida is the news that it looked like Dre Greenlaw wanted to say goodbye to the 49ers more than they wanted to keep him around, and they really wanted to keep him around. The story is coming out that the Niners not only sent the brass to his home in Texas to court him once again, but they also had more compensation, a better deal on the table than the Denver Broncos did. Taylor Worth of NBC Sports Bay Area says before the 27-year-old eventually signed a 3-year, $35 million contract with the Denver Broncos in free agency, San Francisco paid their starting linebacker a visit at his home in Texas earlier this offseason and even outbid Denver for Greenlaw's services. And he chose Denver. Sounded like Dre wanted out. And with Robert Saleh coming back in, you'd think that that'd be another reason to hey, come on back here and let's keep this whole band together. And are you concerned that Dre Greenlaw, who I know the both of us think is a hell of a player, I guess we should be attaching damaged goods speculation to him the same way we attach it to Brandon Aiyuk. But for a fact that this was an in-the-room leader, Larry. When an in-the-room leader wants to leave the room, does that concern you?
Well, it should. But, once again, the 49ers went with some probably super low-ball, aggressive, insulting initial offer and then tried to make it all right in the 11th hour by getting on a bird and flying from San Francisco to Texas to try to tell them that we love you, we love you. It's too late. It's too late. Sorry. It's no different than any of these stupid dating shows where, oh, I love you, we love you, we love each other, we're perfect for each other, but we're going to fuck your neighbor island, and now now I'm going to screw my neighbor. Oh, you know what? I guess I don't love you after all. Well, you know what? If you let your free agents, if you give them low ball offers to start, send them into the marketplace, people are going to make offers. And then all of a sudden you're in some 11th hour, he's going to come back to you because you finally decided to have this come to Jesus moment about his value. I mean,
we don't know we don't know what their opening offer was, if it came up short in the money department, in the guaranteed years department. We don't know what it was, but
all we know is that they didn't get it done. I mean, they had a job to do and they didn't do it. They had one free agent worth re-signing, and they couldn't re-sign him. And then obviously they wanted to re-sign him because and the reports were that they offered more money. They offered more money. If anything, it should be a huge eye opener to the Niners and their fans that the Niners are no longer the coveted team. The 49ers were 29th in the NFL against the run last year. He jumped to a Denver team that's one of the best young defenses in pro football. Would you rather be on a bad defense that's eroding with expectations for an ownership group that didn't want to pay you until they absolutely had to? Or do you want to jump to a new place, a fresh start with a younger, better defense with less pressure? Yeah. In a cheaper market that's closer to your home.
Knowing that Robert Saleh circled Dre Greenlaw his first day back in the building, saying, let's definitely bring this player back. The fact that this has all come out after the fact, it doesn't look good for the 49ers. Perception can sometimes become reality. For Dre Greenlaw, an in-the-room leader, to want out of the room, there is some concern, I think, that has to be attached to that. Again, draft the right player, move on from Dre Greenlaw. That's now the process that the 49ers are going to be looking to fill out in this upcoming draft.
And you got to show love all year long. It's not like, you can just sit there and, ignore your wife all year long and just, whatever. Yes. Whatever.
Right.
And then all of a sudden on Valentine's Day, oh, you know what? Here's the flowers, here's the card, here's this, and everything's great. No, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. And the same way it doesn't work that way, it doesn't work that way with people. You can't just give them some super low ball disrespect offer initially and have them not be insulted. And when people emotionally change their, say, you know what, I don't want to be here anymore. And then I think also it could be something to do with the fact that, here he's always going to be the second guy to Fred, and maybe in Denver he feels like he can be the main guy. But I think that was probably secondary. I think it was probably more their initial offer probably wasn't any good. Their last second, 11th hour, we'll offer you more. Probably, at that point, he's probably already decided emotionally that he's moving. And once he's made that decision, he's made the decision.
Yeah.
So you lost a really good player. So, it's going to be very, very difficult to replace that player.
Yeah, we don't know what the initial offer was, or low ball, fair price, market rate. We just don't know. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You lost a player that mattered, a player that mattered not only to the field, but to the room that the guys who play on the field come out of. And it's that's going to be a tough one to replace. There's no doubt about it. One more thing about the Denver Broncos, and this comes from Barrows. Matt Barrows is reporting that the 49ers and Broncos are working on teaming up for a joint practice this summer. Now, the 49ers tried to do this past offseason where they didn't have enough bodies to actually hold that joint practice with either the Rams or the Chargers. It was one of the teams from LA that they were supposed to, but that thing got canceled.
It was the Saints.
Was it the Saints?
Yeah.
I thought it was one of the Sun. Anyways, it
was going to be the Saints, but I think the Saints might have been training in Southern California.
In LA, that's what it was. Thank you. They were going to go play someone in LA, and I guess it was the Saints. Either way, okay. I do know that these practices, these joint practices, are officially valued more to these coaching staffs than preseason games are. I mean, you really get into the minutia of working on, let's do 20 reps in a row from goal line. If that's what we're working on today, let's work on 1st and 10, 20 times in a row. Well, it's very valuable for these coaches. They care about it. Did you see that Deion Sanders tried to basically tweet a joint practice to life with Syracuse? And, there's this whole the NCAA is not going to allow that. And then someone's like, well, what's the NCAA going to do? What a toothless organization that is. Like if Colorado wants this and the University of Syracuse wants this, why don't they get it? So,
I mean, the cost is enormous. I mean, you're flying a party of 200 people, and putting them up for a week somewhere. I mean, that right there is pretty fat.
But that's, that's standard operating procedure price points for a major college football program, you would think.
Well, I mean, there's clearly enough money to do it. It does seem like a lot of money. Is it advantageous? I mean, the college football doesn't have a preseason, so it's not like, oh, we're doing this instead of preseason games. There are no preseason games. I think that this is the way the NFL is going to go. I think you're going to see lots more joint practices and the preseason schedule shrinking down. Why screw over at the end of the day, why screw over your ticket buying public for nominal reasons when you can go, you can do an in-house deal and do joint practices? I mean, Shanahan likes joint practices more than preseason. Why? Because in a preseason game, you're playing it out just according to the game situation, and you may never get into a situation that you absolutely need to practice. So this is the beauty of having the joint practices. You just say, hey, opposing coach, we want to do 12 goal line plays and we want to work off some play action on the goal line. So we actually want to increase the goal line script to, X number of plays. Okay, let's do it. So I think when coaches have that luxury to script everything, and it's like, hey, you know what? We don't want to force our biggest fans to have to pay huge money for, full freight for second tier product. And we'd rather get it done in a joint practice environment anyway. Let's just do that. So I think that's where it's trending. I think before long, you'll see 2 preseason games and maybe 2 joint practices, something like that.
Yeah. Well, and think about it. The NFL, in the name of stepping all over your right to privacy, in the name of making money, at what point are they televising these things? I'm going to tell you right now that 49ers Broncos joint practice, if it does get agreed to and if it does go down, if you put 5 cameras around that field on scissor lifts, 3 million people would watch that. It'd get a bigger number than the Warriors playing the Pelicans or the Spurs, whoever they just played the other night. I mean, it would get a bigger number than opening day games in Major League Baseball. A joint NFL practice would probably be one of the most watched live sporting events of the week. So at what point
it would probably be, if they don't televise it, it would sneak out via, the fans would, live stream it, right there. I mean, it would just be, somebody would put it out there, whether it was televised or not. So, yeah. But I mean, I think it's the future. Why? You don't need, and we have all these new revenue streams, gambling and all these different things that are bringing in enormous sums of money. And the NFL's revenue pie is the most, incredibly exploding pie you've ever seen in your life. It's one of the most incredible burgeoning industries in the country today, regardless of industry. So, I mean, come on. The NFL doesn't have to screw over their fans with these preseason games at full freight. If I was the NFL, I would do this. I would say to my fans, I'm giving you guys pay full freight and we will send you all back a rebate check for the preseason games. We will buy the preseason tickets off you. and we will give every person's tickets that wants to sell them back to us. We will give them to charity, and we will invite underprivileged children, people with special needs, anybody who's never been to an NFL game, you name it, charity, whatever charity they want to give it to. Let's get those people who've never been to an NFL game, who would sit there, and while the rest of us are sitting there going, damn it, why do I have to pay full freight for this meaningless game that means jack? Let's get that guy out of the stadium, give him a few bucks back in his pocket for being such a supporter of the team, and then let's invite the boys and girls clubs and every ticket they want to give away, and let's pack that place with people that are freaking fired up.
Kids.
You know how fired up somebody who's never been to an NFL game would be, even to see the Niners and Broncos in August with their backups? It would
First of all, you wouldn't even be able to explain to Jack's kindergarten class what a preseason game was. They're at a football game. This is really happening as far as they're concerned. Yeah. So,
and you're developing fans for life.
100%. You're planting the seeds of business that you will do in your future, because that 5-year-old kid someday is going to be a 25-year-old man who's going to wonder, do I want to plunk down $1,000 to go see Niners Cowboys?
And guess what? He may buy a jersey and a hat, and he may buy a jersey every year. I know people who have 20, 30 jerseys. So, but more than anything, just grow your pie and you can do a charitable thing and the right thing for your season ticket holders and still have these preseason games. So, it's a win-win-win.
You know what I'd also like to see the NFL do? The other day I was just thinking about, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be right to do on behalf of the fans? Every single NFL stadium should offer 5 concession items at the exact same price, no matter where you are. Like the way that no matter what Costco you walk into, you can get a hot dog for $1.50.
Right.
You can get a $3 hot dog in any NFL stadium that you walk into. It is the universal NFL menu where, this hot dog in every stadium is $3. This soda in every stadium is $2. This 12-ounce beer in every stadium is $6. It's just something that
they can even do better. They can do better than that, Damon. They should do one of these things where if you're willing to give them your email address, food's free. Food's free. When you look at how much the food costs compared to the tickets and the merchandising and the licensing and having a database with millions of people in it that are there's real value in that. You could sit there and say, if you're willing to give us, your email address so we can build our, all your alcohol's not free, but all your food is free. I think that some point that is going to be the plan when tickets are really, really, really expensive. And I think it's going to be like, the
NFL will never, their owners will never agree to let's make less money.
No, but it doesn't have to be less money. It's just a different structure. You're basically promising your vendors a certain amount of volume, and you're going to be able to make up the difference in volume.
Right.
So there's ways to do this. There's ways
Come
to
on
do this.
Friday, right? Come on Friday. Says Atlanta does it right. They have great value on food. They do. The Atlanta Falcons have one of the most fan-friendly priced concessions in the entire world of sports venues that you've ever seen. Like you can feed a family of 6 for like $50.
That's awesome.
And
it really does help. It really does help, and it would make people more eager to go. And then guess what? They're not going to try to sneak things in their bag and their this and that. And they're already kind of tried to limit the tailgating, which I really don't like. I really don't like that. Let's let the NFL football, the popularity of it is directly to some degree, is directly tied to their fans' ability to tailgate. Fans love, at least Niner fans. I don't know about other parts of the country. I'm sure it's the same everywhere. Fans love the community of tailgating in their area with their friends, with their family. And I would say their devotion to their NFL team is also it's a dual devotion. It's a devotion to their team, but it's a devotion to their peeps, to their whoever they're, tailgating with.
Larry,
it's
ritual.
It's a real party. I mean, I love it out there.
It's ritual. That's what draws fans back week after week after week. It's just the ritual of packing the car, knowing how to execute this tailgate. We will have Steve in the parking lot with 10 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. And by the time the game is over, Steve's going to have hot brats for us. And we're going to eat before we get in the car and get in line to start driving home. Like, the well-executed game plan for a tailgate is the closest thing to head coaches fans get to be, right?
Look at this one. The regular Ryan, tailgating made me a football fan.
Hey, you remember, Larry, we would have at the Stick, they'd have that old tower in the parking lot, that old air traffic control tower in the parking lot, in Candlestick. You would have Butcher Boy and his friends set up a perimeter of cars around that, and they claimed that as their spot every game, every week for 30 years.
Dude, my buddies were meeting up at the E-pole, wherever the E-pole was.
Yeah.
And they parked their car all in relation to this E-pole, and so did everybody else, and everybody had their spot, and it was community, man. And I'll say this, man. I park in the media section, which is the top right corner of the parking lot if you're doing an aerial view. And I used to do the 95.7 pregame, which was at the Hilton, which was literally in the bottom left corner. So I would do a diagonal walk
all the way across the parking lot,
right through the middle of the tailgating. And I can't tell you the number of times that I walked through there, high-fiving people, taking pictures, people handing you a dog. Hey, Krug, you want a beer? Guy said, hey, Krug, you got to do a shot of Patron with me. I mean, it was and it's you know what? I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is what it's all about.
Absolutely.
So it's awesome.
Let's see. Final thing before we get into some supers. And we were Friday or Monday last week, Larry, but we were talking about the possibility of, hey, get this deal done with Brock today, because the price of quarterbacks is only going to go up forever. And we are going to, in the next 4 or 5 years, 100% going to see a $70 million a year quarterback. And we speculated who that might be. And we said that, the young man in Washington right now is probably first up to bat. CJ Stroud, maybe the first $70 million. Larry, we're both wrong. The first $70 million a year quarterback has already been agreed to. Read this on ESPN today as the Baltimore Ravens are thinking about circling back to Lamar Jackson for an extension. He has already signed a 5-year, $260 million contract, and he just signed it in 2023, but that was widely viewed as a 3-year arrangement because of this. The 2026 salary cap figure that is agreed to right now on paper for Lamar Jackson is $74.65 million. So our first $70 million a year quarterback is already in the league right now. It's agreed to. Now they're going to want to restructure everything. They're going to want to sit down, and that might be difficult to do because represents himself. He does not have an agent. But I guess John Harbaugh is talking about they want to start talking extension with their 2-time MVP because they know that, whatever price they can get today on Lamar is the best price they'll ever see. Tomorrow it'll be worth a little bit more. And that's what smart teams do. Again, this is why the 49ers should have gotten a deal done with Brock last offseason, right? I mean, if they really wanted to get ahead of it. But how about that? $74.65 million cap hit already on paper for the 2026 season for Lamar.
It'd be awesome.
Again.
What would they pay him if he won in the playoffs?
It was 80.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, if the guy won a game in the playoffs, they'd give him $200 million. Yeah, no, he's a great player, man. I mean, his performance against the Niners on Christmas night a couple years ago was unbelievable. I mean, he just plays with so much poise and no fear. The game does not speed up. He's slowed it down. And if he can, they could ever get a lead in the playoffs, they're going to be really tough. But if you make him play from behind and he's got to throw the ball in the playoffs, he hasn't proven that he can do it yet. So his playoff record is not good at all. So we'll see. We'll see what
record is good.
3 and he might be like 3-6 or something like that in the playoffs. I forget exactly.
You know whose playoff record is good? Brock Purdy's. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, and the price is always going up, for all these guys. And so the deal you get done today is better than the deal that you're signing tomorrow. So you probably should try to get it done as soon as possible. One other note I thought was kind of interesting today. There's a article on Niners Nation by Nicholas McGee, who by the way, I think I took down in the 49er content creator head to head. I think
are you through to the final four, Larry?
I don't know if I'm in the final four, but I think I took down Nicholas McGee. I think Nicholas, I love you, brother, but what can I say? I think I took down John Lund and I took down Nicholas McGee. Mayoko's on deck.
You're UConn right now, Larry. I'm
gonna have a hard time beating Mayoko, but if I can beat Mayoko, I think I'm going through to the final four against probably Brad. But Nicholas McGee, who's a really good guy and has covered the Niners and has done a really nice job covering the Niners. He has an article up at Niners Nation right now about how the Niners, they were unable to hang on to Greenlaw. They made the 11th hour push, and he's sharing with us the Luka Evans report coming out of the Denver Post saying that the Niners actually outbid the Broncos for Greenlaw, and that Shanahan and Lynch flew to Dallas to try to convince Greenlaw to stay, but came up short, and that D Winters is most likely to start at will linebacker next to Fred Warner in 2025. But he also made the point later in this article, the Niners have other options: Jalen Graham, Tatum Bethune, Curtis Robinson. But according to Aaron Wilson of KPRC2, which is a media source he's out of Houston, he says the Texans, who just signed the veteran linebacker EJ Speed away from the Colts, he signed a 1-year deal with the Texans, but the Niners and the Cowboys were hot on the trail of EJ Speed, and were trying to sign him. So, it's interesting. They did sign Luke Gifford as a special teamer. They do have Fred Warner, and they do have D Winters. And you heard them mention they have some, Bethune and Curtis Robinson.
We like Bethune, don't we?
I like Bethune, but I don't know if I like him as a starter because I don't think he runs fast enough. I think he would be isolated in space against an athlete and probably picked on. But I like him as the last linebacker on the roster as a special teamer. He's a hitter. He's got instincts. But the point is just that they signed Gifford, special teamer. They lost Greenlaw. They obviously tried to get EJ Speed. We've been talking about defensive end, defensive tackle, offensive tackle, corner, wide receiver. You better put linebacker on that list because it sounds to me like the Niners could even use the 11th pick in the draft on a linebacker. I'm not saying they're going to take, Jalen Walker or Jihad Campbell or whoever it's going to be, but
right. They're going to have I think that they could absolutely look at a guy who could be like hand in the dirt defensive end pass rusher and be outside linebacker. Walker from Georgia kind of fits that bill, doesn't he?
He does. Personally, I've heard people say Jalen Walker is going to be like, there's Mike or is it Mike Mayock, right? Mike Mayock, former NFL Network guy, former Raider GM. He's compared Jalen Walker to Micah Parsons and says he's the exact same player that Micah Parsons is. He's that kind of a edge rusher. He's that kind of a pass rusher. Micah Parsons played a off the ball linebacker role at Penn State, and then they moved him to defensive end on passing downs. And then, of course, the Cowboys have made him a star edge rusher. So Jalen Walker, from Georgia, may be their pick at 11. We'll see. We'll have to see it. And if not him, you may see the Niners go linebacker in the second round. There's Jihad Campbell. There's Carson Schlesinger. There's Demetrius Knight. They're all going to be there. So add stacked linebacker to the Niners list of things to get done in the draft. It's an extensive list.
By the way, what do you think of Teddy Buchanan out of Cal?
I love him. He went to my high school. He's a St. Ignatius Wildcat. And, it's funny because I interviewed Chandler Martin.
Would you still like him?
Not as much. But I would be worried about his academics more. No, I'm just joking. Reardon's a good school, but Teddy Buchanan's an interesting player. So he played at St. Ignatius, and then he went to UC Davis, right? The burgeoning football power that is the UC Davis Aggies. And it's like he was a great player at Davis, led the team in tackles. Anyway, he just played 1 year at Cal, but he was so damn good at Cal. And, I've asked a few people about him, and they all love him. They compare him to Fred Warner. Like, oh my God, this guy's going to be
right. There's no way you can
linebacker.
play him on the edge, though. He's not an outside. He's Mike or Will, right?
Yeah, he's a stacked linebacker. He's an inside linebacker. He's 6'2", 235, 240 in that range. But I like him. Yeah, it's a great year for undersized linebackers, and he's probably a 4th round pick. But yeah, I absolutely love him.
I've got one more bit of housekeeping for us to do, Larry, that will introduce us to our final player topic, and then we'll get into some supers. You ready to go?
Okay.
49ers have changed some jersey numbers around, and I know that fans care about this stuff, so we got to put it in today's show. Ricky Pearsall is dropping his number 14. So if you were really excited and went out and bought that Ricky Pearsall jersey, I'm sorry, you're going to need another one now, because he's going to be number 1 this upcoming season. He took Debo's old number. Tanner Mordecai dropped number 4 when 14 became available. And so Tanner Mordecai on the practice squad is now number 14. And number 4 belongs to Jake Moody now all by himself. He and Mordecai shared a number, but were able to do that because Mordecai was on the practice squad. So Jake Moody is still wearing number 4. And that brings us to the fact that Jake Moody is still very much in the room. And I guess Jim Harbaugh was saying, glowing things about the mental toughness of his collegiate kicker, who obviously was drafted in the 3rd round by the 49ers, to mixed reviews, shall we say, since that moment in time. I think Moody's on the team, Larry. It doesn't sound like he is someone that they're looking to get out from underneath of at all. So I think that 49ers fans better prepare themselves for another season of Jake Moody, and he's going to be wearing number 4 all by himself now.
Well, they better have some competition, for him, because if it's like you fool me once, shame on me; fool me twice, shame on you. It's if they try to come back with Jake Moody, the other way around. But if you come back with Jake Moody and Jake Moody falls on his face, it's no longer a Jake Moody mistake. It's your mistake. Last year you can blame Jake Moody. This year you're going to blame Lynch. So that's just reality of the situation.
Well, you
People
better
are not going to.
Right.
You run out of gas one time, it's like, oh, okay, it's an accident. You run out of gas the second time, it's operator error. Have
you ever run out of gas in your history of driving?
Yeah, yeah, I have.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've run out of gas.
Oh, I can't believe that. Shame on you.
It's been a long time. But yeah, I've run out of gas before. I had a car one time that had a gas gauge that was totally off.
Okay, so if you had a Fugazi gas gauge, that is the only excuse you can have for that situation.
No. I mean, you could just you could get between gas stations. If you're, I mean, if you're in a metro area, running out of gas is ridiculous. But if you're in the middle of nowhere, I mean, there could be
you're driving the Grapevine. But again, you need to plan ahead. You need to know that you're not going to. It looks like your camera just ran out of gas, Larry. You activate ear cam. Activate ear cam in studio. No, ear cam. There it is.
What happened? What's going on here with the camera?
I don't know.
We'll have to check this out. There we go.
He's back, everybody. All right. Should we get into some supers?
Yes. Oh, wait a second. No, Matt Barrows has an article out that's pretty interesting that we should reference as well. And he's talking about the younger players that could have big roles with the 49ers this year. How many of these guys potentially can be starters? Tariq Owens, Matt Hennessy, Trey Brown, Tatum Bethune, Ben Barch, Nick Zakelj, Evan Anderson.
I would say Barch and Anderson are your clubhouse leaders in that group as potential to be starters.
Yeah, I would say Tatum Bethune is not a starter. Trey Brown is not a starter. Tariq Owens is not a starter. Ben Barch and Nick Zakelj may be starters. Matt Hennessy may be a starter. I would say the offensive linemen are starters, possibly. Zakelj, Barch, and Hennessy, those three guys potentially could start in the interior at some point. The other guys, I think, are probably not starters. Evan Anderson, I think, has the ability to start, but I think you want more of a pass rusher. He's more of a first and second down guy. So I love Anderson the most of this group, but I would say Zakelj, Barch, and Hennessy are probably the guys that have the best chance to start.
Hey, if you're talking about young players who need to make an impact this upcoming year, we were just talking about him changing his number. Ricky Pearsall, this is your year, brother. You gotta have a monster year for the Niners to look right. I think Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing, in terms of NFL opportunity that is in front of them, have as much opportunity in front of them as any players in this league in terms of I can wrestle snaps away from the competition on this roster and really establish myself as a player in this league. Cowing or Pearsall, one of them has to have a breakout year for the 49ers.
Somebody does at receiver. I'll tell you the guy that I like. I like Isaiah Hodgins. I think Hodgins is a good player. He's a big receiver. He's a Bay Area kid. He did it with the New York Giants on some really bad New York Giants teams where he actually made some plays. He doesn't have great 40 time, but he's a possession receiver with size. And I think Isaiah Hodgins is a guy to watch for this summer. He's not a big burner, but I think Brock's going to love Isaiah Hodgins in the red zone. And I would say wide receiver is a wild card factor for the 49ers in this draft. I don't know who they're going to get, but they better scout out, a couple wide receivers that they can get somewhere along the line here, because I think if they really are depending on JJ and Ricky Pearsall and Cowing, they're cooked. I don't think that those guys, that's not a Super Bowl caliber receiving core. I mean, not based on what I've seen. We'll see. I mean, the Eagles just won. They had A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And you're going to try to win with Pearsall and Cowing and JJ. I would say that's probably not going to work. So we'll see. All right. We got this guy, Jeff. Kelvin Banks is legit. What don't you like about him, Larry? I read the Bob McKinn piece. Go read the Bob McKinn piece on Kelvin Banks. The scouts just panned him. I just see a big bodied guy who's just okay. He's just okay. He looks like maybe a right tackle or a right guard. I don't see special at all with Kelvin Banks. And I definitely would not take him at 11. I don't see a special player there.
I like him in the third round a lot, Larry.
Yeah, well, I
You
mean, yeah.
know, 11?
He's not
No.
going to be in the third round, but no, he's in the 11th overall. I don't like him. And you could go read the reports yourself if you want. There's a Bob McKinn report that basically says that he doesn't move all that well. There's nothing really special about him. They had an anonymous scout. Let me see if I can grab it. An anonymous scout was asked about some of these guys, and he just panned Banks. And it's
Beware the anonymous scout this time of year.
yeah, but I mean the anonymous scout has nothing to lose, right? I mean the anonymous scout, it's hard to say that an anonymous scout has an agenda.
Maybe that's the player he wants.
Yeah.
That would be it, right? I'm going to shit on this guy. Hopefully
He'll fall to us.
Yes. Yeah. That would be it. But
anyway, I don't have it in front of me, but, yeah, I just, he didn't love Banks. And then I've never loved Banks. Banks has got a huge body, but I don't see a super special player there. I mean, you drafted Mike McGlinchey. Has he been a good player? Well, yeah, he's made a lot of money. He played right tackle for the Niners. Now he's the right tackle for the Broncos, and he's going to make a lot of money. He's going to play a decade in the league. He's going to be a quote unquote success, other than the fact that he really isn't a success. I mean, he was a guy that was drafted 9th overall, who's a right tackle exclusively. And I think Banks is big body, but not a great player. Travis Stewart, maybe Larry is holding out. Love you guys. Good morning.
Oh, I think this was our just a couple minutes late start time today. People love theorizing why we're starting 4 or 5 minutes late, and they've got some wild fan theories about you, Larry.
SGA Sports Talk, Chardal. He says, hi, Larry and Damon. I'm a big fan of both of your channels, and you both absolutely rock. You two are the most down-to-earth people on YouTube.
Thank you. Thank you very much, SG.
Chardal. Barry Ford, bang, bang from Memphis. Is Clay Kubiak the first OC since 2021? Why is that? Shanahan's been the OC. He's been his de facto own OC. Why is that? Because Shanahan's going to be the play caller. Generally, most offensive coordinators are your play caller. Shanahan's going to be that play caller. So
I wonder how much he'll really let Kubiak take over. Like if they're up 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, does he tell Clay, you got it from here, land the plane? It'll be interesting to see what that dynamic is, because we saw Shanahan give over play calling duties to Kubiak a couple times last year. I think especially in the get the hell out of the season games. Like, didn't the last 2 games of the year, didn't Kubiak get those? Is the play call?
I'm not sure exactly which games Kubiak got, but you're right. He did get a couple games. What's going to be interesting, too, is that Seattle's got Clint as the OC, and the Niners have Clay as the OC, and they're both running the same scheme. And we'll see. I mean, Seattle last year passed the ball more than anybody, never ran it. This year, they want to rebuild their offensive line and start to run the ball a lot more. We're going to see, can the Niners run the ball this year? Is Christian McCaffrey going to be healthy? Are they going to find a running back in the draft? Are they going to rebuild their offensive line? I mean, there's a lot of unknowns on both the Niners and the Seahawks on the offensive side of the ball. 49ers squadron. Who's the best defensive tackle in this draft? That'll be a perfect scheme fit for the Niners. Greg Cosell says it's Walter Nolan. Okay. And I would tend to agree with Greg Cosell on this one. I like Kenneth Grant quite a bit, and he's a big-bodied guy for sure who can play that one technique inside, be that nose guard. But as far as for the Niners, I think Walter Nolan is the perfect guy because he's such a good, so good on splits, on twists and stunts and the movement up front. The Niners under Kocurek like to move their guys around, and I think Walter Nolan is awesome if you start him inside and twist him in, start him inside, twist him outside, start him outside, twist him inside. He's scheme versatile. He can play the 3 technique in the defensive front. He could play a 1 technique if you want him to. He could play a 5 technique and a 3-4 front if you had to have him do that. I think he could play defensive end in the Niners 4-3. I think he could run a wide 9. I mean, I think he's like Chris Jones. I think Walter Nolan is the closest we've seen since Chris Jones, as far as Chris Jones looks natural playing defensive end. Walter Nolan looks natural playing defensive end, but they're both more tackles. So yeah,
I like it's day 2, day 3 guy. I like JJ Pegues out of Ole Miss a lot. Yeah. What Larry Darius Alexander, this kid from Toledo.
Yeah, he was great in the offseason.
Yeah,
in the
Senior Bowl, right?
Lead up. Yeah, he was good at the Senior Bowl. He was good at the, Darius Alexander had a really good season this year for Toledo.
I don't want to hold the MAC against them because there's good football being played in the MAC. But if how much of an earth mover are you on a MAC line of scrimmage? Aren't real earth movers playing bigger brands of football? I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
There's always the big fish in the small pond.
Of course. Khalil Mack. Yeah. Don't let
Toledo's been good. I mean, Toledo's had a good program. I mean, look at the Eagles. The Eagles just took Quinyon Mitchell, a corner from Toledo, and he was the best player in the offseason and one of their best players in season, and probably one of the main reasons they won the Super Bowl. So no, I mean, I like Darius Alexander quite a bit. I would say if you decide to go in a different direction and not defensive tackle in the first round, I think Darius Alexander is a candidate for the 49ers at 43 in the second round. I think he's a second round defensive tackle. We got this one from Boxing Fan ×4. I did a Bears mock to see what the 49ers would be given. They took Membu, TJ Sanders, Ratledge, Vernon Broughton, Pegues, Quincy Riley, Riley Mills, Tyrion Ingram, Wohler, Malachi Moore, Elijah Alston. Okay. Thank you, Boxing Fan.
All I can tell you is that if the Niners walk out of this first round with Membu, I'm going to be smiling ear to ear. I think that is the guy. So I hope they do it.
Yeah, I like Membu. The only thing about Membu they're saying is if you're expecting him to be a left tackle, he may not be a left tackle. He might be just a right tackle.
Okay. Well, again,
I did the whole breakdown on the offensive linemen this week, and I went through because the Niners did have a bunch of linemen that were, that a lot of people thought were good fits for them. And when I looked at it, I'll tell you, on the offense, I would play the offensive line thing differently. Like I would not go for the top tier guys. I would go for the second or third tier. Carson Vincent, Miles Hinton, Arianti Ursi, Caleb Etienne, Anthony Belton, Emory Jones, Logan Brown, Caleb Rogers, Essa Pole.
Well,
those are the guys. Those are that secondary group.
You better make hay in that group if you are going to be looking early at addressing the absence of Dre Greenlaw or Brandon Aiyuk by going linebacker or wide receiver. So D line is probably the direction we see in the first round.
D-tackle, yeah. Or it could be DN, but I think it's probably D tackle.
Right. What is past this prologue? We've seen the 49ers draft D line early. Expect that to happen again. It would catch nobody off guard if they did. Then what they do in the second round, that's when we're going to find out whether or not your tier 2 offensive linemen are as sexy to them as they are to you, Larry, because if they go D-line first round, I would not mind at all coming back O-line second round. But again, they might need wide receiver. They might need corner. They might need they certainly need linebacker. By the way, the reason why I don't think they're going to go early corner, I know that there's a lot of speculation about corners coming up. I don't think they're going to go early corner based on the fact they got Diamador Lenore and Renardo Green. I know that
most teams use 3.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going corner on day one or maybe the second pick of day two?
Well, here's the thing about it. They need an outside corner, because Lenore's their slot corner, and you've got Renardo, but you're pretty thin there. And the key to pass coverage is pass coverage. So I would say that there's a very good chance they go corner in one of their first 3 picks. A lot of people projecting Will Johnson and Jedi Barron to them. And I understand that. Why? Because the Niners have needs on all 3 levels of their D, and the cornerback class is not as deep. So you could, if you really felt like, man, we got to get a corner and a D tackle and a linebacker out of this draft, you may start with the corner, because if you start with the linebacker and the D tackle, you may not get that corner. Or that corner. Like, there's talk that they like Zoff Frazier out of Texas San Antonio, and he is like a 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round corner. And there's also a couple other guys, Noel Williams from Cal, Caleb Ransaw from Tulane, Denzel Burke. But I mean, I would guess that the Niners could very well go Jedi Barron or Will Johnson in the first round, just because they're not just corners, they're corners and they're great players.
Again, so outside in, be careful with that.
Yeah.
I mean, problems inside to
but
be working.
The thing is, if you do go linebacker and offensive tackle and defensive tackle, and you get to the 5th round, you might be shut out at corner. And when you're down, when there are no more corners, there's no more corners. Big Tone says, "I'm a
great man once said, when there are no more corners, there are no more corners."
Well, I mean that is it. I mean, like, when you run out of corners, there is nowhere to go. There's no store. There's no secondary position. You're really dealing in, like, you can't stop an opposing team's passing attack because you don't have guys who stand up on the corner. So it's the key to coverage is coverage. In other words, there is no key to coverage.
Who got picked on in that Miami Dolphins game a few years ago?
Brian Allen, signed on a Wednesday, and then literally Ryan Fitzpatrick came out of every huddle like this.
Where is he?
He's right there. Go at him. Oh, where? He's on this side. He's right over there. I mean, it's literally what they did.
That guy was put in a bad situation. They set him up to fail.
That was awful. Oh, you know who's responsible for that? Do you remember that one? That was the day that Ahkello Witherspoon said he wasn't healthy enough to play, despite the fact he was up. So they made Witherspoon active. He said he couldn't play. They started the game with Brian Allen. He got absolutely torched. And then Witherspoon came back in. And that was, I think, the end of Witherspoon.
Yeah.
With the 49ers. Because you can't do that. You can't say, I'm too hurt to play. And then when the other guy sucks, you're like, okay, I guess I'll play now.
In there. Yeah.
I'll get in there. No. Big Tone says, I'm in Santa Rosa. Only open Saturday and Sunday, Damon.
Oh, is that Train Town? Well, I think we've been up there during the week in the past. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll double check before we go. Thank you.
Joseph Ehrenberg, what are the top 3 positions that need attention? Well, they need great players. I don't think it really matters what the top 3 positions are. I would say, though, it doesn't have to be in this order, but I would say it's defensive tackle, defensive end, and
I'm putting O-line in there.
Offensive line, I'll just say generally, because what they really need is they need they need to add a couple good future starters on the offensive line, but they don't have to start them right now. That's the thing. You could start Ben Barch at left guard and still draft a left guard. You can, I really think the Niners like this kid, Charles Grant, out of William and Mary, who they just worked out. He's got 35-inch arms. He plays guard, but a lot of people think he's a tackle.
By the way,
I can see them drafting him.
That is the talking point of the freaking arm length. A few years ago, it was hand size. This year, it's arm length. I've never heard more about the inches of arm length mattering to football success than I have this year. And I'm telling you, there's some of it that I'm sure is provable and true, and there's even more of it that's probably bullshit. I don't care.
It's not bullshit. It's not bullshit. It's just that people don't watch the game the way the pros watch the game. And if you did, you'd see the need for the long arms.
Right. Will
If you
Campbell can
watch
play
the end
no matter
zone,
how long his arms are.
but if you watch the end zone close up, you can see the different angles. If you're a short arm tackle, they've got a shorter route to the quarterback. If you got a 35-inch arm and you can keep somebody at the end of it, I wouldn't draft somebody on arm length only. Oh, he sucks, but he's got long arms. So what? He sucks. And I agree with you. It's not like Will Campbell can't play. The guy's been dominating in the SEC since he was a fucking freshman. I mean, my God, people, we stop losing your mind over this. It does not matter that much, but it's not like it doesn't matter at all. And it's all degrees. And so 35-inch arms, awesome. 34-inch arms, awesome. 33-inch arms, fine. Once you get down to like 31-inch arms, now you may want to play a different spot. And I've seen some guys who were good tackles at a lower level, like, at Division II level or FCS. And they're so big and tough and whatever. It doesn't matter they have 31-inch arms. They get in the pros and it's like, oh, wait a second. No. That guy's a guard. That guy has to play guard because you got to be able to keep that guy at a certain arm's length. So it's not bogus, but people who want to say that Will Campbell can't play in the NFL, I mean, those people are like, what? No.
Dude, look at this. You have success at LSU along their offensive line. I think LSU's got the fourth most offensive linemen in the NFL right now. Like they produce football players there. So,
well, to give you an example, Will Campbell was great at left tackle for LSU. All right. Emory Jones was really, really good at right tackle. These are their two tackles. Okay. The left tackle, Campbell, is got a little bit shorter arms, right? But they still measured out at 33 inches. So it's not like he's got 31-inch arms. He's got 33-inch arms. The other guy, Emory Jones, is a converted basketball player. He's 6'5", he's 312 pounds. He's got really, really long arms. He started his entire career at right tackle, but they think that his ability to pop out of his stance is a little slow, and that he may be susceptible to speed rushers at the pro level. He may just be a guard. So, a lot of times this stuff has to be investigated, coached up. This is it. So I like Emory Jones a lot, and I like Will Campbell a lot, but I watch LSU football a lot, and those guys are good. They're good players. I don't know that I would take Campbell in the top 10, but I like Campbell in the first round, and I think Emory Jones is a steal in the second round. So we'll see. We got this one. Fuji Simeon, will the Niners revise the tailgate rules at Levi's?
Who knows?
Again? I think, didn't they? I thought they did, didn't they?
Well, I mean, I hope that they would expand, give people a little bit more time to get in, get out, stay longer. I just let people come and have a good time, for God's sakes.
Seriously. I mean, stop screwing with their tailgating. Do whatever you need to do to make money, but let these people tailgate.
Didn't they implemented you can't just park wherever you want. You have to come in and, how you file in is how you park now. You can't say, well, my friends and I always go park by the E-pole, so we're going to go.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
We just discussed that. It's like how do you want these people to have a community, or do you not want them to have a community? If you want them to have a community, then allow them to meet up.
Right.
I mean, seriously.
By the way, the community is going to be the only thing that saves interest in your team should your team bottom out. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, have you ever had a party where, 10 of us are at your house and 5 of us are at a house a mile from here, and 10 of us are at a party at another house 7 blocks from here, and 3 of us are at a party, but we're at, down by the beach, and, some of us over by the stick, and, it's like, what? It's not, we got to be together to be, have a party. We got this one from Fuji Simeon. Boo, SI, Larry. LOL, the shots at Reardon Academics. You know what?
It has to happen. Like I said, ritual matters, and Larry has a ritual.
you get a 3.5, you get a SI. You get a 2.5, you get a Reardon. There you go. Fuji Simeon, keep an eye on the UFL kickers to invite to camp. Seriously, go check out some of these UFL guys for sure. I just saw Kalen Balaj with a touchdown run, and I forgot that he was a pretty good running back. He looked pretty good. Kalen Balaj, the former ASU running back in the UFL the other day. Fuji Simeon 13. Quick early thoughts on the Giants' first series. I think the Giants are going to be a National League wildcard team. I love Elliot Ramos. I love Luis Matos. And Matos played yesterday against a right-handed starter. So my big fear in the opening series was that Matos and Yaz are going to be a straight platoon with Yaz playing against the righties and Matos only playing against the lefties. But we got indication yesterday that that was not the case. So I think the Giants are going to be – I think their pitching is better than you think. I think their pen is much better than you think. I think their defense has improved a little bit, and it's really just going to come down to the offense, Damon. If they can score runs, they're going to contend. If they can't score runs, they're not going to contend. If there's a bunch of injuries, they're not going to contend. They're pretty thin. But I would say that I like the Giants to be the third. I'll say it right now. I made the prediction on opening day, and I'll stay with it. Giants and A's both make the playoffs this year as the third wild card in their respective league. Giants beat out the Reds for the wild card in the National League, and I think the A's are going to beat out the Tigers for the wild card in the American League.
Jung-Hoo Lee's got to be a hell of a center fielder and an on-base machine. And Matt Chapman just needs to be Matt Chapman all year long. God, he's a really good player, man. He's so
driving runs.
Oh, dude. I mean, I think of him, just almost through the prism of defensive third baseman. You almost forget how good of an offensive player he can be when he gets hot. Chapman can really, really play. He is their best player. Yeah.
Did you see Damon, what
and Cincinnati gives up a ton of cheapy home runs. Like it's hard to look at any level of offensive production in Cincinnati and say that's going to translate just like this to the rest of the league all year long. So
it wasn't a typical Cincinnati series though, because they was freezing in Cincinnati and cold and windy, and so it wasn't like that park is a bandbox and it's going to play really small. It didn't play small in this opening series. Couple other thoughts too. I think Casey Schmidt is going to beat out Fitzgerald at second. I'm a little skeptical about Tyler Fitzgerald and his ability to hit. It's like it looks awesome last year, but and everybody extrapolated that out and said, oh, he's a 30-30 guy. I don't know about that. Casey Schmidt may wind up taking some of the at-bats at second base. But I'll say this for the Giants, though. They definitely have a different vibe under Buster. I think Melvin is really free to be more of the manager. He seems far happier this year than last year. He's putting out the lineup. Last year, he put out the lineup like literally 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 20, 30 minutes before first pitch. Now he's putting out the lineup 3-4 hours before first pitch. I think, Damon, that has to be a Buster Posey, Farhan Zaidi switch that has.
Well, I think players understand more than Farhan ever did. It's important to know what's being asked of you when you're coming to the ballpark. And one of the biggest complaints that came out of the Giants clubhouse of the Kapler Farhan era is nobody really knew what they were going to do day of game. Am I playing today? Am I in the lineup today? It's going to be a long time before I even find out. They don't go public with the information. Maybe that information even trickled slowly throughout the clubhouse. Look, here's what we know. We haven't played enough baseball to look at anything and say that matters yet. Okay? Yankees, torpedo bats, all that home run. We'll see what happens. They had a hell of a day for sure. But everything is small sample size, but you can never make a, second first impression. And our first impression of the San Francisco Giants this year is a positive one. I'll give them that. I had a positive first impression of the Giants. Cheers to them. I think we got A's.
Verlander looked good. Robbie Ray looked really good. I mean, Robbie Ray was throwing really well. So, yeah, they look pretty good. And it's going to be tough to make the playoffs, but I think they got a shot. I think they got a real shot. Fuji Simeon, thoughts on the potential proposed tush push ban? I'm kind of against the tush push ban because I'm always a believer that, let offense, and defense solve itself. It's like if somebody wants to,
By the way, you've changed on this because you were all about banning it in the regular season last year. You hated it. You said it was a rugby play. You wanted it out of the game. You said if the Niners did that all up and down the field, you would hate it.
No. Here's my thoughts on it. My thoughts on it are this: it has to be banned because it's too close to being something that could take over. If you get an initial push and then the whistle doesn't blow, and then you get a second push and you get a third push, and that's basically what I've seen from the Eagles. You're getting a play that lasts a long time, and you're getting a play that almost is impossible to not gain 4 or 5 yards. That is the key number. If the play goes for 2 yards, then don't touch it. Just let it go, right? But if a play goes for 4 yards, it has to be canceled. Do you understand that? Do you understand why that's the case? Because think about it logically. If somebody can get 4 yards on a random tush push, you could technically, Damon, you could get the ball back with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter and a 1-point lead. And if you were this good at converting this tush push, you potentially could just
run out the clock and call it a win. I'm not going to
run out the clock, but it's terrible television. We're talking about a show.
No coach will let a team run the same play for the entirety of a quarter. It's never going to happen.
But no, there's no way to stop it. There's no way to stop it. Teams are loading up on the defensive line, but if you're giving them, to me, it's categorically a wrong play. Why? Because it's the same reason that you can't climb up the back of linemen to jump over and block a field goal. You're using somebody else's body to propel you forward. Well, it's the same thing. If you have guys from behind who are pushing from behind, well, then it becomes like you're changing it from a football play to almost like the equivalent of tug of war, where a rope gets pulled or pushed. You know what I mean? So right. You cannot have
your quarterback.
You can't have the tush push, no huddle. We're just tush pushing down the field.
I don't have a problem with it.
We can agree with that, right?
My argument would be, if it were so easy to do, there'd be more than just one team doing it.
But it's just started. So you haven't even, it's a copycat league.
But so there's
a 450-pound guy in the draft this year. So should the 450-pound guy in the draft who plays at Florida be a second-round pick? No. But if you're going to allow just mass like that it's going to be like a rugby scrum type thing, and you're going to wait 7, 8, 9 seconds. You're going to get your initial surge, but the whistle doesn't blow. Now you got guys pushing. Now you get secondary pushes, and it's an 8-second deal. Well, guess what? Somebody's going to make 5 yards. And as soon as somebody makes 5 yards, and then they decide they want to run it on second down and third down, it's first down again. As soon as somebody moves down the field by tush pushing, the NFL will literally change the rule in the postgame, because nobody will watch that.
First of all, there's no such thing as the football game nobody will watch.
Nobody will watch that. You want to kill football? If you want to kill football, just have no rules to the tush push, no parameters. You can get as many pushes as you want. Basically, you go forward until there's real stoppage. We're going to let you keep pushing. Well, dude, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. Nobody's going to like it. People are not going to want to watch it. So I like basically allowing, if you want to go 46 defense, fine. I'll go 3-step drop. I'll Dan Marino, and I'll negate your 46 defense. I'd rather see football dealt with that way. Let the Don Shulas battle the Buddy Ryans. Let's let the Kyle Shanahans battle the Robert Salas instead of having rules. But this tush push thing, I think they're gonna eliminate it because they're probably gonna say safety. I don't know if safety is a good reason. I think it's just bad television, really bad television.
It doesn't bother me at all.
It doesn't bother you because only one team does it and they rarely do it. If every team did it and they did it all the time, it would bother you a lot.
If the 49ers could push their way to a Super Bowl,
it would be terrible. Nobody would want to watch it.
But Lombardi Trophy is all that matters. And I don't want to hear a complaint out of anybody. And if the 49ers were able to win,
why they're discussing banning it.
Possibly.
That's why they're discussing banning it, because you're right. Nobody wants to hear anybody complain about this. They just want to have a real football game. And
I just think this is a solution looking for a big problem more than it is a real problem that needs a solution.
Well, I'm sure there are those who would claim that you're putting the quarterback's head in a bad spot. That would be the argument, because you're putting the quarterback's head at the tip of the sphere and you're jamming that sphere into it just does. I'm not in favor of creating artificial rules to change the game, but this is one that I think look at it this way. If everybody did it, would it work? No, it would not be a good thing for football if everybody stopped getting away from athleticism and started drafting 400-pound sumo wrestlers as their interior offensive linemen and a 500-pound center or 500-pound fullback, and just we're selling out for this. So I personally, I don't care that much, but I do think that they are going to ban it, and they're going to ban it because it's bad television more than they're going to claim they want to avoid injuries to the quarterback, but I think they're going to ban it because it's bad television. We got this one, Blood Moon. Tetaroa McMillan says he doesn't watch tape. Yeah, that's a concern. That's a concern. This is the Arizona wide receiver who came out this week.
That means you're not quite ready to be a pro, because there's no I don't watch tape as a pro. So
he's a very immature guy. I've heard him interviewed a couple times. He was asked, you could have any quarterback, and it's like, and it came time, it was Mahomes or Jaden Daniels, and he took Jaden Daniels. So right there, I was like, I don't know, bro. Sean Kirkpatrick,
he's got freaking Velcro for hands. I mean, he catches everything.
Yeah, big, huge catch radius. Sean Kirkpatrick, you seemed absolutely convinced BA was getting traded. I absolutely was convinced.
It might still happen, but the sand is running through that hourglass quickly. If it's not done by noon tomorrow, it ain't happening.
Well, I mean, here's what I was convinced at. I was convinced that the 49ers wanted to save Jed that $110 million, and that they would take almost nothing to get it done. What I don't know is that the way it came down? I don't know if the Niners said, hey, we'll take a 7th round pick. We just want to get out from the money. And people were just like, nope, we're not giving you a 7th round pick. Or did the Niners say, hey, man, he's worth a 2nd or a 3rd, and we're not taking less? Because if you told me that nobody offered them a 2nd or a 3rd, I would say you're probably right. I don't doubt that. That might have been the case. They might have wanted a 2nd or 3rd, and then nobody offered that, and they said, that's it. We won't trade him. But I really thought that they would be so motivated that they would have taken multiple day 3 picks. I would have taken multiple day 3 picks. I'm a little surprised that they didn't. Jay Kuda, 83, thoughts on Damian Martinez out of Miami. Some of his numbers are really good. I was listening to Cosell break him down the other day when he was asked about different running backs, and he kept talking about the strength of Damian Martinez, how he really, really liked the strength of Martinez. Martinez has some great numbers for sure. He ran really well for the Hurricanes, and I would say he's probably going to be, because he's only a 4.5 guy. He's not a real burner. So he's probably going to be a day 3 pick, but that's going to be a great pick in the 4th or 5th round for somebody. Damian Martinez from Miami.
By the way, I really like Sam Brown Jr., wide receiver out of Miami. Great day 3 option, I think, out there for the Niners.
What do you like about him?
Dude, I mean, he's fast. He played in an incredibly productive offense with an NFL caliber, maybe number 1 pick, quarterback. He is, again,
I don't know about the speed there. I don't think he's very fast.
Well, there's not a lot of perfect to be found on day 3, right?
Yeah. Sam Brown, Miami receiver. Good height, though. Good height. 5th-year redshirt senior. He's a Georgia kid. He was one of their top. He was 4th on the team in receptions, 5th on the team in receiving yards. He played, though, in the nation's, as Damon said, top-ranked offense with Cam Ward. Spent
spread
2
it all
seasons
around.
in Houston, and then he started his career at He went from West Virginia to Houston to Miami. He was a wide receiver, free safety in high school. He was a great high school player, and has emerged as a good receiver for the Hurricanes. I have to study him. We'll have to check him out. I'll look at him and see what I think of him as we get closer. Harold McAllister, can Jalen Walker replace Dre Greenlaw? I think he can. Now, Jalen Walker is much more of a pass rusher, so he's played that defensive end spot, but his body is that of a stacked linebacker. And so there's a lot of people that look at his linebacker play and say, oh, Jalen Walker, he's not a defensive end at that size, and he's inconsistent as a linebacker. He's inconsistent as a linebacker because he's played defensive end. If you played him at linebacker more, he would be more consistent. As far as can he replace Dre Greenlaw, he absolutely can. I don't know if he's even going to be there because I think Carolina may take him at the 8th pick overall. But yeah, Jalen Walker is a special, special player. His dad was a former All-American linebacker at Catawba. He's a really smart player. He's their captain. He closes space like nobody else. Fuji Simeon says thoughts on the Yankees using torpedo bats. I didn't even see that. What's a torpedo bat?
So the Yankees had their, front office do a little study, and they've moved the bat narrows at the top of it, and it just changes the barreling and the sweet spot of the bat. It adheres to the letter of the law of bat design, but it is a new design. And, the Yankees hit 9 home runs the other day. Now, Aaron Judge was one of the guys. He hit 3 of them, and he did not use the torpedo bat. Aaron Judge says, look, I'm having the kind of career that means you don't change your bat in the middle of it, But the rest of the Yankees seem to have a great amount of success with it, and it's just a new kind of design.
Does it look different?
Little bit. It looks like
it
looks like when you roll a joint, it's a little pregnant in the middle, it's a little fatter in the middle, and then it kind of tapers off at the end.
What's this rolling joints that you're discussing? Fuji Simeon says 400-pound Dieter in a tush push as the fullback. Yeah, Dieter told us in a live stream the other night that he, at one point in his life, was over 4 bills.
4 bills. That's
big.
Look at it this way. I've seen Dieter at all fluctuations of weight. And if I saw him at 4, he wore 400 pretty damn well. I mean,
I don't know that you saw him at 400. He might have been 400 years ago.
Either way,
more in college.
I'm really happy to say he's in much better shape now than he used to be. So,
but I mean, the guy is about 6'8".
He's a huge human being.
Yeah, so I mean, he's a big boy. So you can
all
carry
of the
that weight.
Bay Area media members, I don't think anybody has ever out-talled either Tolbert or Rod Brooks. And I would say that Dieter's in there. Like Dieter he is at like.
He does slouch though. He says he admitted he slouches, so he doesn't.
He's a sloucher.
Fuji Simeon says, I hope Trey Lance has a chance to play and develop in the Canadian Football League. Well, that's where he needs to go. They're saying Saskatchewan.
He needs to play.
Every little kid in Regina is gonna walk around saying, "Hey, Trey Lance, that's our guy." That's gonna do it for us today. Damon, are you going live in 5?
No, we are. So I was told here in the chat a couple of times from locals up in Sonoma that said Traintown is not open. So that means I got to go upstairs and pivot with Jillian as to what we're doing today as the boys are both home on spring break. USFF schools are on their spring break.
Why don't you go? Have you thought about the butterfly exhibit at the Palace of Fine, not the Palace of Fine Arts, but the not the Exploratorium,
California Academy of Sciences?
California Academy of Sciences.
So we are members of the California Academy of Sciences. It is one of the best memberships a family can have. The kids freaking love it. Jack is ready to give tours at the California Academy of Sciences.
So they've already done it. Been there, done that.
It's a winner every time we do it. So that could be today's pivot because we have promised them a field trip. Apparently, we're not going to Train Town, so we're going to have to put together another plan. I am not doing an 11 o'clock show. I am going to go be super dad for the rest of the day, and we'll get back to normal as the week goes along.
Sounds good. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to our sponsors, Pig and a Pickle. On my end, of course, the great Pig and a Pickle. Check them out. Of course, Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. And then, of course, Claudaddy Arcades and Learn Key Upskill Academy. The links are in the description below. Damon's shout out your sponsors, Ike's, and anybody else you want to shout out.
Yeah, thanks to Ike's. As always, think about getting yourself a sandwich from Ike's today. Thank you so much for the best Guinness pull in all of San Francisco at the Dubliner West Portal. Love Kenny and John, those guys over there. Go watch a Warriors game. Go watch the Final Four at the Dubliner. Go enjoy yourself there. And thanks to everyone who's been watching, subscribing, liking, notifying. Really, really appreciate it. Everyone who does that. So thank you very, very much. And that's it, Larry. That's it for the day. No Train Town. Oh no, we're
closed. Today over here, I'll be doing a few more videos on the NFL owners meetings. I believe Grant and I stream today at 3. He's going to be from West Palm Beach. There will be no Niners Nightly tonight because of Giants Astros. So this week, Niners Nightly on KMBR is a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday deal. No Niners Nightly because of Giants baseball the next 2 nights. So I will not be doing that. John Lund and I sometimes go live on Monday nights. We'll see about that. I haven't confirmed yet with Johnny. But that's going to do it for us. Have a great rest of your day. Damon, take care of those kids.
Thank you.
And the rest of us, it's time for us to bolt for the door. Get out of here. Get out of here. All you got. Don't tear an ACL if you're at the Exploratorium.